Hola a todos, mi nombre es Lucía Galeano, QA en Crowdar.
Buen día, yo soy María Alejandra Capurro, también QA en Crowdar, y vamos a ser quienes los acompañen durante toda la mañana de este día online de testearla.
Sin más preámbulos, vamos a presentar la keynote de apertura de nuestro sponsor oro, Epam. Él es Péter Foldházi, Quality Architect en Epam Systems, nos acompaña desde Estados Unidos con esta keynote en inglés cuyo título es Learn from Hungarian Inventors to Survive the GenAI Craze.
Invitamos a todos los asistentes a ir realizando sus preguntas por el chat que Peter responderá en el vivo al finalizar. Adelante, Peter, te escuchamos.
All right, finally the day has come for the Testilla conference. It's great to be online with all of you to open this lovely event and to have the opportunity to share my story with you and my way of thinking during this crazy Gen AI world we are living in right now. Let me introduce myself. I'm Péter Foldházi, and I'm originally from Hungary, Budapest, and I moved to the States more than 6 years ago. So right now we are living in the St. Louis area with my family in the state of Missouri. And I'm working for the company called Epam Systems. We are one of the sponsors here of this conference. And you will also get to meet my colleague, Tariq King, and a couple of my other colleagues as well tomorrow in the in-person event if you go there. And so we are a consulting and outsourcing company providing custom solutions for our clients. And we are one of the pioneers in the Gen AI world right now, providing Gen AI transformations to many of our clients. Uh, this is the reason, one of the reasons why I brought this topic for you. I'm hoping that with my story and with my way of thinking and our way of thinking at Epam, I can help you survive this crazy Gen AI world. Okay. And now that Skynet is ever closer, it really feels to be the perfect time to tell this story and to guide you in the face of uncertainty. I know that many people are afraid of AI, and luckily there are many experts that provide calming visions. But as usual, I will bring a twist to this topic, a different angle that you will come to realize isn't necessarily a super new idea. You just have to put the pieces and solve the puzzle. That said, I invite you to this journey and to listen to my story. I gave some little hints that I'm originally from Hungary and I had lived there for 34 years before moving to the States. I know that some of you have been to my homeland, and if you haven't, I will show you some very convincing reasons to go visit Hungary. So, what is the first thing that comes to the mind of tourists when thinking about Hungary? I believe for most of them it's the guyash, or as more people are calling it, the goulash. And it's a traditional Hungarian food, a soupy stew, and it's just amazing. But I promise that this is the only foodie picture that I'm going to show you today. I don't want to torture you with some yummy foodie pics. Uh, we also have our amazing wines from the Tokai region and other regions as well. And for me, especially the Tokai wines come in the second place. But I can bring in some wines and like cook my own goulash. But some other things that are a little bit more difficult to bring in. Before I move on, fun fact. The gentleman here that you are seeing here is a Hungarian man who was born in Argentina and was brought up in Argentina. And together with his brother, they own the Zombari Pinza, and his brother owns the Tres Vines in Argentina. So in case you're interested, you can get in contact with them. And as I mentioned, so I can cook my own goulash. I can bring in some tokai or find in some of the liquor stores here. But one thing that I'm really missing, other than my family, of course, is the city itself, Budapest, where I spent 34 years of my life. And one fun, interesting fact is that we have more than 1,300 spas, thermal spas, in Hungary, and 10% of those are in Budapest. So we are pretty packed with those thermal spas. And so we are a small company with less than 10 million people. The territory itself is small, but our impact in the world is pretty huge. And almost every human being on Earth knows at least one Hungarian or a Hungarian version. For example, the Rubik's Cube from Rubik Erne. He invented it during the courses that he provided to his university students, and later figured out that hey, it's quite of a challenge to solve this puzzle. So he was working on more than a month to solve it for the first time, and then it really became a big thing in Hungary and then eventually in the whole world. And right now there are more than 350 million copies of the Rubik Cube that have been sold so far. Piero Laszlo's invention, the ballpoint pen, literally changed the course of humans at the beginning of the previous century. More than 100 billion ballpoint pens have been sold so far. So roughly 5 million every day. So there are several hundreds of you online right now and I doubt I can find anyone who has never heard of either of these inventions before. Then we have our awesome musicians such as Liszt Ferenc, who made a huge impact in classical music as a composer. And if you were a fan of Tom and Jerry as a child, please raise your hand. As usual, Jerry tried his best to be a real Jerry in this episode, while Tom was trying to play the Hungarian Rhapsody from Liszt. So please enjoy. Okay, time to move on with the slides. So Neumann János, or as you may know him, John von Neumann, standing next to the ENIAC, the first ever modern computer. The ENIAC's design drew upon contributions from a team of engineers, mathematicians, and physicians, reflecting an interdisciplinary effort to create a groundbreaking computing machine. Lastly, Volga Judith is the greatest female chess player of all time, having beaten several all-time greats such as Kasparov, Carlsen, or Karpov. She was the top female player for 26 consecutive years and picked a top 8 against men with 2,735 points, being the highest rated female chess player ever. She continues to give hope and to inspire not just Hungarian chess players, but all the little girls in the world who started playing chess. So, as you see, there are so many fellow Hungarians that I could look up to draw inspiration from, and to just go forward even when I felt exhausted, hopeless, or lost. For me, being a Hungarian means many things. One of those is the constant pressure, the inner pressure to do better, and to show the world that this little country with so few people is there and it's important. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why I've been putting so much effort in learning about GenAI, even when I didn't feel the vibe. Talking about vibe coding is an AI-assisted software development approach where users describe their project in plain language and an AI generates the corresponding code. This method allows even those without extensive programming knowledge to create software, but it may lead to issues with code quality and security due to a lack of deep understanding of the generated code. Let me get back to the inventor of the modern computer. Neumann János bridged mathematics, physics, and engineering in order to design and build the ENIAC by 1945. Two of Neumann's heuristics were already followed in building this computer, fully electric and using a binary system in computing. Neumann's principles and heuristics, particularly those outlined in the first draft of the report on the EDVAC, his next computer, have had a profound and lasting impact on computer architecture. While some aspects of his original ideas have evolved or been refined over time, many of the fundamental concepts continue to influence modern computer architecture. This is how huge the first modern computer was. And now look at this. The ENIAC built as a chip in 1995, exactly 50 years later, the size of a penny. This is how much computers have changed within 50 years, and an additional 30 years have passed by since then. It's not a surprise that people are so scared of AI and the change it brings to our lives. Change is the only constant. As long as you are prepared, change will not affect your life negatively in the long term. Just think about how humanity went from not being able to read and write to leveraging machine learning algorithms and tools today. quill or feather pen was mainly used from the 6th century until the end of the 19th, and easily portable, not accessible to the public. The ballpoint pen by Biro Laszlo made a huge impact on humanity by making writing more accessible, portable, and easy to use. ENIAC helped aid in computing, not publicly accessible, not portable, costly to build and maintain, but still a tremendous step forward. The personal computer made computers publicly accessible starting from the mid-70s. By the years, it became easier to use, more powerful, portable, laptops, mobile phones, tablets, you name it. Using a computer is not a nerd thing anymore. Since the early 2000s, everyone had to start learning how to use a computer, otherwise they could not compete in the market anymore. Windows, Internet Explorer, Word, Excel, without those you were lost. Even as a blue-collar worker, not being able to make a quote digitally, not being able to send that quote in an email, without those you'd be lagging behind the competition. Many people do not realize it, but in the last roughly 10 years, tremendous amount of development skills pretty much became mandatory as well if you want to stand out at your job. Without programming knowledge, you won't be as effective as a tester, as a BA, as a manager, as a leader of an organization. Almost every organization needs to build or buy software. And if you don't understand how people build it for your company, then you are losing potentially 7 or 8 figures of dollars every year. Moreover, you lose out on potential promotion or the ability to switch to a new engagement with a higher salary. The age of AI, the age of prompt engineering. I hope that this does not come as a surprise. The current next skill that all of you have to pick up, all of you that are joining in online right now need to pick up is prompt engineering. Having a basic theoretical understanding of AI, machine learning, and GenAI specifically are necessary here. You don't need to become the one to build the next LLM solution, but you need to understand how you can leverage it in improving the outcome of your own work, and perhaps to enjoy some shorter work days. Just don't tell your boss about it. Okay, so Kutor Laszlo was my biggest motivator during my university studies. And already on his first lecture to my group, he stated the following. In our studies, our focus shall not be on learning what is being applied today, but to figure out what will be applied tomorrow. That is not an easy feat to say the least. It's constant learning and putting pieces together, trying to solve the puzzle of Rubik. But can we do it in order to, or what can we do in order to achieve that? Well, we need to learn some basic algorithms. So let me show one of the algorithms for solving the Rubik's Cube. Come a little closer to me. So, first thing you have to do is to solve the cross on one side. Pick a color, such as white. That's typically what's recommended for new cubers. Let us call this side as software testing skill. Next up is solving the whole white side, completing your skill, your software testing studies. Again, it takes a little bit more time to get there, but eventually, as you are solving the first side, you also solve the bottom row for each side. Meaning, as you go through your software testing journey, you start picking up other skills during your way. Let's take a look at some of these examples. So you complete the bottom row and the middle row for each side. And you are picking up more experience in each of these skills, such as domain knowledge, QA processes, or coding and test automation. You are building yourself as a subject matter expert in more areas, and instead of having deep knowledge in only one aspect, now you have a wider area of knowledge in additional skills too. Then you have to look at the top and solve the yellow cross. Here, of course, I chose prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is not a new skill to possess anymore. In 2023, people started picking it up, and in 2024, the pioneers started being experienced in it. Experienced enough to really be thought leaders in their subject matter expertise uh, and how they can leverage prompt engineering in that. If you have not started learning about it and practicing it, then you are behind the pack. You need to start ASAP, as soon as possible. As you complete the top cross, you need to align the sides so that the top center aligns with the correct side. After this, you check each of the corners whether the color combinations were correct or not. Then you can fix that, and then you only have one more step left to shift them around to ensure that each of the sides are complete. Once you have the yellow side solved, you just have to side the bottom and centerpieces a couple more times, and it's done. Obviously, it's easier said than done. It took me 2.5 days to learn to solve it on my own for the first time. And I've been practicing it ever since, and there's still so much more room for me to grow. It is the same about software testing and software engineering. We never stop learning new technologies and new approaches. To me, learning how to solve the Rubik's Cube taught me how working on certain skills can support in picking up other skills as well. And you saw my recommended skills to pick up as a software tester. That is my opinion and my created example. But you can build your own version of the Rubik's Cube. You can identify the skills that you need in order to succeed. For me, let me focus on overall AI and explaining this diagram here. So people often use these expansions interchangeably, and I think that's good to know the real differences. Today, when you hear someone say that they are using AI or they are AI driven or AI first, usually they talk about Gen AI or simply using LLM. And I think that is a pretty confusing thing, not too far when it gets to selling Gen AI products and tools or approaches. Uh, anyway, let me deep dive into LLMs because, again, usually people are just talking about leveraging LLMs when they talk about AI during the last couple of years. That's how it's been. And the key for that is to learn hands-on prompt engineering when you are using LLMs. And to succeed in this new era of software engineering, because how we were working 3, 4, and more years ago, this is not how we are. Like even today, we are not working like that anymore. And the more we go forward, it's going to change even more. So we cannot dismiss leveraging LLMs and knowing about prompt engineering. Okay, but what about saying thank you or asking ChatGPT like, please, can you do me the following favor? Uh, don't worry if you don't say thank you or you don't say please. ChatGPT is not going to send you, or any other LMs are not going to send you the terminators to destroy your home and your neighborhood. But if you start removing this nice way of interacting with LLMs as if they were humans, then you are saving money for yourself, for your company, and for OpenAI and for the other such LLM providers. I know, I know, they're still adopting everybody, but believe me, at least for now, you are safe. Let's also clear the difference between a prompt, an AI agent, and agentic AI. Prompts are specific inputs or queries provided to AI models to elicit desired responses or outputs. AI agents are autonomous systems that can perceive their environment, make decisions, and take actions based on those perceptions. Agentic AI is a more advanced form of AI agents that possesses a degree of autonomy and decision-making capabilities, often with the ability to learn and adapt over time. When you plan a GenAI transformation program, the focus is usually on pilots with smaller use cases. What we've seen at Epam is that these pilots are valuable in showing how you could carry out this transformation on team level, yet it won't show you the real ROI of this investment. It's still needed, but it's not enough. The real ROI, the return on investment, is achieved only at scale, and if you involve multiple SMEs in creation of an agentic pipeline. The idea is to have agents cover the repetitive generative work where they excel at, while humans still do the bulk of the work by providing the basic idea that turns into a high-level requirement. Then as you formulate the user stories, you provide your feedback, fine-tuning the generated output. This ensures that you can decrease time spent on meetings such as backlog grooming sessions, user story refinement, and so on. I think that sounds really convincing, right? Nobody wants to spend several hours a day on these meetings. Okay, the human in the loop is essential. This new era is not about the agents. It's still about you, the human being. GenAI helps you become more effective if used the right way, but it cannot replace you. You, the person who comes up with the original ideas, have the real subject matter expertise and the critical thinking that LLMs do not possess. So on one hand, the hype is real. It's time to jump on the bandwagon.
Yes, sir, I'm signing.
But the reality is that most companies inflate their numbers. They promise 30% to 50% productivity gains, 33% optimized headcount, and so on. The reality is most of these companies don't know what they are talking about. They just want to sell their products. The refusal to adopt is understandable after hearing such numbers and such promises. That is why a GenAI transformation should be focused on the human being, not the GenAI tool or platform. A successful GenAI transformation happens by transforming our way of working, not by replacing us with robots that lack our complex brain with our feelings, our way of processing images and sounds, and our critical thinking. You will refuse to adopt if you are threatened to be replaced by a GenAI agent. You will hop on the GenAI bandwagon if you are promised 25% decrease on time spent at work. I can work 6 hours a day and still earn the same amount of money if I use GenAI. Yes, sir, I'm signing.
Yes, sir, I'm signing.
So I hope I gave you hope in this new era that we live in. There are many different paths that we can traverse through. It is clear that GenAI will be there no matter which path we choose. So I recommend figuring out how it will help you in your journey so that you will enjoy it instead of fearing it. Thank you very much. And thank you for listening to this whole presentation. Again, I hope that I gave you hope and some ideas how you can improve yourselves and how you can become better engineers by picking up prompt engineering. And I'm here online. I'm looking forward to all of your questions to answer all of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter, for this wonderful presentation. Now we have something first, and then we are going to the questions, okay?
Ahora vamos a ver un video de nuestro sponsor Epam y luego continuaremos con las preguntas de Peter.
Argentina es muy importante para Latinoamérica desde dos puntos de vista. Por un lado, por la cantidad y calidad de profesionales y por el otro lado, por los clientes, ¿no? Recordemos que no solamente desarrollamos soluciones de software para el mercado de Estados Unidos, sino también lo que es LATAM for LATAM.
Estamos en un momento impresionante para Latinoamérica, creciendo tanto orgánicamente como a partir de la adquisición de compañías que se unen a la familia Epam y duplicando la cantidad de talento que tenemos en la región. Nosotros no somos una empresa donde simplemente contratamos a alguien y vamos a ponerlo a trabajar para un cliente, hacer lo que el cliente diga, sino que realmente nos preocupamos porque nuestro talento siga estando a la vanguardia, siga motivado y entendiendo que tiene una carrera para desarrollar dentro de Epam, que su esfuerzo cuenta y que sí es relevante ese valor adicional que puede brindarle al cliente.
So now we continue with the questions, Peter. I have something here, so let me see. Why do you consider it's important to acquire practical knowledge in prompt engineer?
So first of all, Lucia, thanks, and Maria as well, for all of you for inviting me to speak at your conference. And to answer that question, so the reason why it's important to learn prompt engineering is exactly the same. Like when the ballpoint pen became a thing at the early 1900s. Think about it, that at that time, not everybody was, well, still today, unfortunately, there are people who still don't know how to write, but I think the amount of such people are much less, or at least the ratio of people who don't know how to write. And that's an important skill. And because of the ballpoint pen, we have accessibility to, we have access to a tool that enables us to write. Stepping forward a little bit, like 50 more years or 40 more years, the computer became a thing, the modern computer, when John von Neumann and his team created the first modern computer. And at that time, it wasn't accessible to all of the people and inside families. And I was a little guy when we had our first computer. I think it was 1990. And at that time, having a computer in a family, at least in Hungary, wasn't really a big thing. But over the years, just in a couple of years, almost every, or at least more than half of the families had one computer. So if you think about it, like right now I have this phone here and a couple more phones that I'm not using too often. I have this laptop, I have another computer. Whenever my client, I have a new client and they require me to use another computer, I have that computer as well. So it's an absolutely normal thing that everybody is using, or most people are using computers and multiple computers. Then, at least in Hungary, that's the example that I can give. In the early 2000s, it became important to be able to use a computer, to learn how to use Windows, Excel, Word, the Internet Explorer, and so on. That wasn't a thing in the 1990s. And I believe the shift in about 2000, in the 2010s is that if you don't pick up some coding knowledge, then you are behind. Of course, it's not a must for everybody, but if you're working in IT, at least to be able to understand what is a variable, what is a method, what is a class, and so on. That's important. Now, I'm here to talk about the prompt engineering, why it's important. It's for the same reason. It's now becoming, I wouldn't even say it's now becoming a thing. It became a thing in 2023. Last year, many of us started using it for our work, more and more people. And I see that this year, so many companies are expecting us to provide thought leadership in GenAI, provide them a plan on how to do a GenAI transformation. So companies are expecting that this is going to be the norm at work. And if you don't pick up prompt engineering, then you are left behind. And you won't be able to get a promotion. You won't be able to land a new job because companies are expecting that you know how to do prompt engineering. So that's the answer to that.
Well, thank you, Peter. We have here another question. To what extent is it realistic to claim the GNA will not replace humans, considering current examples of automation?
Okay, so if it's automation, let me be a little bit broad and then I will talk more about the automation part. I think it's the same. To be honest, I don't think it really matters if it's test automation or other types of testing, or if it's development or business analysis. Overall, it depends on the company. We see that there are companies who said like, hey, we are now fully GenAI enabled. We are just gonna fire like 1/3 of our people. And then after a couple of weeks or months, they start realizing that they made a huge mistake, because those people, many of them will be quite angry and probably won't go back to that company, or they already landed a new job and they won't go back to that company. And they have that huge amount of knowledge that those LLMs do not possess. So that's the risk in laying over people just because you jump onto that GenAI hype train. So I believe, unfortunately, it will happen that there will be some mass layoffs here and there, but then those companies will realize it and they will get back to that same headcount that they had, or maybe just a slightly little bit smaller headcount. What I see is that over the years, people, again, like people who don't pick up prompt engineering and learning about different GenAI tools and GenAI platforms and how they can leverage those at work, I think they are going to be struggling. They are not going to be able to be as productive. So it might happen that some of those, not everyone, but some of those people will be replaced by people who have the necessary prompt engineering skills and experience. And again, it doesn't matter if it's test automation, development, or other role. I think it's true to all of these different roles.
Excellent. Okay, we talking about organizations. How should organizations prepare to avoid failing behind in the adoption of these technologies?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm very happy that this question came up, because actually right now I'm working for a client that would like to do that transformation. So we have been helping them for over a year. And right now we are at a stage where we are providing more and more use cases where we are providing implementation for more and more use cases and involving more and more people in this GenAI transformation. How they can prepare in general the company. So first, realizing that yes, you need to start picking it up, and don't wait till 2026 and later. You should start this journey as soon as possible. That's one thing. Second, when you are expecting that your company is going to pick up GenAI, LLM, and prompt engineering knowledge, start with yourself first. So just open ChatGPT or any other LLM and start playing around with it. Doesn't matter. You can ask like for new recipes. You can ask for help how I can put a light bulb into the lamp, whatever that you need help in. try to interact with it, try to see how it is working and how it helps you. Start doing it in your job as well. So if, let's say, you are a CEO of a company, then maybe you want to work on a strategy, and then you can go with some high-level questions about it, and trying to structurize your prompts better, and then you will see how much investment it is from your side to be able to learn it. This way, you will also understand how much investment it is from your people to learn it, and how much help it could be potentially. In the meantime, start talking with companies who actually know how to do this transformation. Without the help, you're going to fail, and you're going to invest a lot of efforts into it for something that you're not going to be successful with. So you do need the help. Just like with anything, if you don't know how to do test automation, you would hire someone who is a test automation engineer. If you don't know how to develop, let's say, like an MCP connection, you would hire someone who knows it, or someone who is smart enough to pick it up real quickly. So again, I think that's where it really starts. One more thing I would add here, that especially last year, but even this year, whenever companies were approaching us, they were asking mostly about, okay, what are the tools and platforms you can provide to us? And we have shifted these discussions into what are the ways to convince people to jump onto this bandwagon, and to make sure that they are actually doing the right work, and they are not afraid, and they are not being threatened of being laid off. That's, I think, that the mentality shift. It's not, of course, the tools and platforms matter, but it's ultimately the human beings. If people are not using prompt engineering, you're not going to do you're not going to have a successful GenAI transformation.
Okay. Sure. What key elements differentiate an effective prompt from a poor one when working with GenAI?
So, Maria, unfortunately, I couldn't hear the first couple of words. Could you please repeat?
Yes, of course.
Thanks.
What key elements differentiate an effective prompt from a poor one when working with GenAI?
Okay, again, very relevant, and I'm happy to talk about it. So, like in general, what I recommend, not just I, but what the industry recommends, is to use a so-called like prompt framework or a prompt structuring method. So one of that is, well, there are quite many of those, but one of that is called the Craze, which is you first talk about the character. So yourself, like let's say I'm a test automation engineer. So I want the LLM to respond to me as if it was a test automation engineer as well. So I'm going to tell that I am a test automation engineer, or you are a test automation engineer, or act as a test automation engineer. So that's the character part. Then there's the R, the request. This is obviously really important because you have a question, you want something to be done. And usually, I think the problem comes when it's like several sentences or like a really long request. So if it's a short and clear request, what you want, like for example, generate a grade build file, Gradle build file. That's pretty simple request. One sentence and a short one. So you need to have that request separately. And then you start providing the examples, you start providing some adjustments, the type of data, like what is the format that you're expecting? Is it a Java class file, or is it an Excel table, and so on. So you can provide that, and you can provide some examples as well, like, hey, like I want to have an Excel table to be generated. This is how it looks like. These are the columns, these are the rows, and so on. So you need to provide some helpful guiding to the LLM to be able to make sure that it provides the output that you are expecting. If you are just one-shotting it with some or zero-shotting it with something very simple, it will give you something generic and not the output that you are expecting. I think that's the most important. Of course, it's a very deep topic, so we can go deeper than that.
Great. Okay, we have one more question. What small practical steps can any professional take after this talk to start integrating GenAI into their daily work?
Okay, so first things first. So it also depends, like, are you allowed to use ChatGPT at work? So make sure that you figure it out. Do you already have like an on-prem ChatGPT or any other LLM that you are allowed to use, or not? If it's not, if you don't have anything, but you are allowed to use a public LLM, again, make sure you don't copy paste your entire code base or your test cases or requirements there. But you can still ask questions. Like, let me give you one example. Let's say that you have experience in Java, but you don't have experience in C#.NET. Very similar languages, but there are some really key differences as well. And so you don't know how to build your first test automation framework in that. Of course, you can go around and read about it in the net, but you want to be faster. So you would ask, okay, first questions about, okay, what do I need? Like, what IDE do you recommend? Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code probably is going to be the answer. But then you start building from that. Are there any like specific design principles and design patterns that are recommended in .NET projects? How do I bring in the right tools, like, for example, NUnit, or are there any other test harnesses that are recommended over NUnit, for example, like XUnit? Is it better to use that? And so on. So you can start figuring out the tech stack and the way to build the framework itself. Of course, a lot of things are going to be the same, like still it's test automation, like how you would structurize it is the same. But that's how I would do it. Like, okay, figure it out. Are you allowed to? Do you already have something on-prem? Maybe Copilot, or you have Cursor. So, if not, are you allowed to use any public LLMs? And make sure that you abide to security principles here. And then just start working on a pet project or anything inside your job. Like, you can create a framework, and it's already a great learning lesson. And then you see, like, depending on what is your input, what is going to be the output. Don't be afraid of starting a new conversation with that LLM, because you might have different responses. So this way you're learning, you're going to have a lot of mistakes, you're going to have a lot of annoying challenges here or obstacles, but this is how you learn. That's what I would recommend.
Okay, Peter, a big thank you to you for being part of Testearla. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Lucy, and thanks again for inviting me. And I hope that the rest of the online sessions are going to be awesome, and with lots of activities and questions. There were a lot of questions now, so I really appreciate that. And I hope tomorrow as well, in person, there will be a lot of people to talk to and to have nice conversations with.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Argentina es muy importante para Latinoamérica desde dos puntos de vista. Por un lado, por la cantidad y calidad de profesionales, y por el otro lado, por los clientes, ¿no? Recordemos que no solamente desarrollamos soluciones de software para el mercado de Estados Unidos, sino también lo que es LATAM for LATAM.
Estamos en un momento impresionante para Latinoamérica, creciendo tanto orgánicamente como a partir de la adquisición de compañías que se unen a la familia Epam y duplicando la cantidad de talento que tenemos en la región. Nosotros no somos una empresa donde simplemente contratamos a alguien y vamos a ponerlo a trabajar para un cliente, hacer lo que el cliente diga, sino que realmente nos preocupamos porque nuestro talento siga estando a la vanguardia, siga motivado y entendiendo que tiene una carrera para desarrollar dentro de Epam, que su esfuerzo cuenta y que sí es relevante ese valor adicional que puede brindarle al cliente.